Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am fresh off of my vacation and I appreciate you guys coming back to see what's going on. I'm going to be covering week 17 and 18 since I kind of took the week off last week, and I'm very glad that I did. I will be sharing some of my photos and videos of my trip to Yellowstone with my family at the end of this video if you're interested in seeing those. It was a phenomenal, fantastic adventure and I would do it again. I was very afraid to go at first. I was afraid of being attacked by a bison or a bear or some other wild animal, but it was nothing like what my expectations were. And maybe because my expectations were so low is why it was such a phenomenal, beautiful trip. If you've never been to Yellowstone, I 100% recommend going. It was unlike anywhere I have ever been before. Today's video is going to be sponsored by Michelle McDowell Designs. So thank you to them. I am a Michelle McDowell ambassador and I am happy to be wearing their clothing on my channel now. And for me wearing their clothing on this channel, you can use the code JEN, that's right, J-E-N, with the link that's down below in the caption. Use them together and you will get 20% off your entire purchase. I will be wearing lots of their styles moving forward on all of my videos. I also have already been to the grocery store today and I was stopped 3 times at Aldi while I was going down that nice little aisle of shame getting the cooling mat and the doggy pool for my French bulldog Frankie with people asking me where my dress came from today. I will show you guys some of the other styles that are right over here that I've received of theirs that I have been wearing this summer. They are the easiest clothing to just put on and feel great about yourself at whatever size you are. They have multiple sizes, including the extended sizes, which is what I love so much about them. They also have jewelry, which, you know, everybody likes little bling, right? Thank you to Michelle McDowell Designs for clothing me and also giving me some bling for all of my future videos. Today I'm going to be going over quite a few things, so buckle up. I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. I promise this is not going to be a 2-hour long video, even though I know you guys know I can do it. I'm going to be going over which travel container I use. I know I showed you guys 2 different ones. Everyone wanted me to try one. I'm going to show you how it went and also the process of what happened through TSA on my travels. I'm also going to be going over some updates into the Glp-1 requirements from our PBMs and our insurance companies that are coming out and hitting a lot of the forums with a lot of angry people. I want to go over some of those with you, not so much to, you know, put you guys on the defensive, but so that you are prepared in what may or may not be asked of you in the upcoming future so that you can get ready in case it hits you as well. I'm going to go over my results after 10+ hour long days out in the heat and hiking, how my weight was looking after the next 2 weeks. And remember, I did take my Cosentyx before I went on this trip. So let's see how it went. I'm going to be going over my endocrinologist follow-up. This was my local provider that originally prescribed me the Tirzepatide, and I did not have a follow-up with her for 4 months. So yes, I use Weight Watchers Clinic. Yes, I use their care team. Yes, I go through their fitness program. Yes, I talk to their nutritionist. And yes, there is a medical MD who specializes in weight loss medication who writes my prescription through Weight Watchers Clinic. However, I am also followed by my local endocrinologist who knows all of this and is also supportive of it because she knows that it's just additional care management that her team is likely not having to provide. So I did have a follow-up with her. I'll go over things that she told me, things that we discussed as well. And then I want to go over some things in the news, specifically things that I asked you guys last week to make sure that you go watch. I have some other things that I think is important for you guys to go watch, and we're just going to talk about what's in the news with GLP-1s and Zepbound. So let's get started. First first, I'm going to start with a little bit of a switch up. I typically go over my results at the end of the video, and today I'm going to go over them first. I was a little surprised by my results. Now, I am covering what happened during week 16 and week 17 for me right now, and then later today I will show you my week 18 injection, which is still a 2.5 milligram Zepbound. Now, I've been on 2.5 milligrams Zepbound, but I have great news. I have been prescribed both by Weight Watchers Clinic and my local endocrinologist the 5 milligram, and one of my pharmacies found it. So I went ahead and I'm filling that. It's not here yet. I still have, I believe, one more of the 2.5 milligrams to go through. There might even be two. I can't remember how many's in my box, I'll be honest. I think there might be two left. So after I finish those 2.5s, then I will progress on into the 5. I don't really want to just jump over to 5 without first seeing that it's actually going to be able to be filled. Right now, I will put a link below of all of the FDA shortage lists. There are additional titrations and dosages of both Mounjaro and Zepbound that are now listed as available and no longer in shortage. So I'll be very interested to see how this no longer in shortage affects the compounding world as well. For my results, so 16 and 17. On week 16 is when I took my Cosentyx injection right before I left. If you recall, I was also on steroids and an antibiotic for 10 days prior to that. So my weight had gone up in general just because of the antibiotic, the steroid, and the Cosentyx. However, then I went to Yellowstone where we had over 10-hour days outside in the heat, actual hiking, lots of walking. I was logging close to 20,000 steps a day, and a lot of those steps were legit hiking up a mountain. This is not, like just 20,000 steps on a flat road. So it was a very, very hard, rough day, super dehydrated. I really thought to myself, okay, if everyone says all you have to do is work out more to lose weight and eat less, because there was not a whole lot to eat out in the park unless you found one of the smaller little towns towards one of the gates, or you stopped at, for instance, the dining cafeteria over by Old Faithful. There was not opportunity to constantly be snacking unless you just filled your car at one of the general stores, which we did not do. We had bison jerky, which is amazing, just so that you guys know, even my kids loved it. We had lots of water in my car, and then when we did stop, I believe I picked up a pretzel with hummus, which also tasted amazing after being out in the heat and hungry. I ate shrimp while I was there. I had baked potato. I had a lamb gyro while I was there, I believe, but I could only eat half of it because there was so much meat on it that I could not possibly get through it all. I had bison, like actual bison steak. I had elk steak while I was there. The restaurants offered a lot of different type of food, and I wanted to be able to try that all. So I did try to stick to the whole foods, as well as chugging water all day and then exercising more. I am here to say that I lost 1.2 pounds with 7 full days out hiking over 10 plus hours in the heat, sweating and replenishing myself with water. All I lost because of my Cosentyx injection and the steroids was 1.2 pounds. Since I have come home and taken the other Zepbound while I was on vacation that I traveled with, and then continued to come home, no, I'm not out hiking 10 plus hours a day. I'm still drinking my water. You guys know I love my water in my cup. I try to fill this bad boy 3 times a day. I'm still drinking my water. I'm still very much eating whole foods. And so overall for week 16 and 17, I am down 2.6 pounds. So my total lost since I started is right here. And I will tell you all that I always say, if you're not measuring, make sure that you're also measuring. I use the Renpho measuring tool and their scale. No, I am not sponsored by Renpho. This is just what I use, and I show it to you guys every single time. The reason that I say it's important to take pictures and also measure is because I measured myself and I have lost even more inches around my body. We're talking about 3 inches in my thighs. The 2 inches in my arm is still holding strong, and I'm still working on all of this. I've lost almost 4.5 inches in my hips. I've lost, an additional inch in my waist, an additional inch in my chest, and 0.5 inches in my neck right around here. So if you guys go look at one of my very first videos to now, you will probably see that this wonderful double chin and this neck right here is getting smaller. I will say I was a little surprised because yes, I had some mushrooms last night in a ravioli with some cream sauce. And no, I'm not supposed to have those things. I'm not supposed to have dairy. I'm not supposed to have mushrooms. That's part of my SIBO diet. And so my waist up here on top is slightly bloated out. So I'm not showing any inches lost right there in that section of my stomach, of my abdomen, because I have SIBO and I do bloat out, and then it will go away. Sometimes if it stays and it hurts and it doesn't go away, then I have to go on an antibiotic for the SIBO specifically. So overall, I've lost 2.6 pounds. I've lost all the inches. I'm good with that. I did discuss with my endocrinologist. We'll go into that next. I had my appointment with her yesterday. She asked me how things were going. This is the first time I have had an in-person conversation with her in the past 4 months. The only thing back and forth between she and I has been, hey, my PA's not getting approved. My prior authorization's not going through. What can be done? And then no responses from her or her care team because they're still trying to figure it out and trying to work on it. They spent 2 months trying to get my prior authorization approved, and they could not get it approved, which is why I used Weight Watchers Clinic or the Sequence Clinic, because they have an entire financial team around being able to get things like that approved. So I told her that. She understood. She said insurances are getting extremely strict on the prescribing of these drugs, and that every single day they are receiving new letters from the PBMs or the insurance companies of patients of what the new requirements are going to be. And so she was not really surprised by them not being able to get it approved, but she said she was glad that I was on it because she wants me to be on it. We did discuss my Cosentyx, and she just laughed and said, okay, does your rheumatologist finally believe you now? And I said, yeah, I think he believes me now that he sees that even on a Tirzepatide, even on Zepbound, I am still gaining weight unless I'm going to Yellowstone and hiking over 10 hours a day on Cosentyx. And I mean, in reality, who has time in a normal life, just anyone who has a job, anyone who has kids, anybody who has a family, anybody who's in school, anyone who has time to go out and hike for over 10 hours a day if they're on an autoimmune medicine that makes them gain weight like this. And not only that, I'll cover in a little bit, when you have an autoimmune disease like what I have ankylosing spondylitis with axial spondyloarthritis. Yes, I know it sounds like a dinosaur. I have dinosaurs. It sometimes can be very difficult just to move in general. The aerobics, like aquatic therapy, is very helpful for me. Just general walking is very helpful for me. A lot of the larger step downs and step ups on our hiking, both my mother and myself, who has RA, had a little bit of a hard time trying to get our knees and our legs and our hips to cooperate for that large of a distance for a step. And I often found myself having to turn sideways and try to step down sideways to try to help balance the weight a little more on my knees in general. A lot of times people who have to take a Cosentyx or a Humira or an Enbrel, or I think my mom's on some Pony Aria with methotrexate, they don't really have the luxury of this just, hey, go exercise more, because your body's not going to function for you to be able to do that for you. And time. I mean, time is the most precious thing. You cannot get time back. Who wants to waste time 10 plus hours a day going and working out just to make sure that they don't gain a pound because they have to take an autoimmune injection? That to me sounds a little ridiculous. Just saying. Overall, my endocrinologist did tell me that, of course, she believes that I need to be on this medication coinciding and coupled with my Cosentyx with the rheumatologist. She told me she would send him a message back to that to let him know, like, yes, she agrees they need to be together, that I am a patient who for sure needs to be on this medicine for other reasons other than just a BMI. I will tell you all, I did discuss with her. There are multiple different companies, and I'm going to put up some of them for you all to read. I did a whole blog post on this, that are changing the recommended or required BMI that was set forth by the FDA, and they are now requiring different requirements of their patients who are part of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, for instance, or the Express Scripts that I will show you as well, in order for them to be able to attain these medicines. And I personally feel like, you know, there's only one person in our legislature that's been going after different drug companies, and that's Bernie Sanders. And realistically, I feel like he needs to go after these PBMs and the insurance companies, because they're the ones who are making things completely unattainable for everyone. They're the ones who are setting the pricing. They are the ones that are demanding from manufacturing that they provide these coupons, that they provide this, that they provide that they don't have to pay for this. And then they're actually pocketing the payments from the manufacturers just for the manufacturer of the drug to be on their preferred tier drugs. You know, I personally, my husband has changed jobs a lot every time he gets recruited by another pharmaceutical company. If they're offering him more, then he goes. That's just basically how it is. He'll say, okay, I can go here. It's a larger company. It's more stable. It's more pay. It's a better area than we're living in now. Let's go. So each time we do that, we have a different insurance. And every insurance requires different things of us. They require different types of requirements in order to receive the drug. We have to pay different amounts. We can only get from certain pharmacies, or we have to go to a specific doctor to get a different prescription, and then we have to get all new PAs, and it's just a huge headache. And so I do want you guys to go over to this blog post and read about this, because I want everyone to kind of be prepared, because once one state sector of an insurance company starts making changes like this, they have kind of like what they call a benchmark across all businesses, that the other states are going to say, oh, hey, that's a good idea. We're going to start requiring that too, and maybe we'll save some money. And it's really quite ridiculous. And I feel like if the FDA has set forth what the requirements to obtain a drug should be, that all of the states should have to follow that, and all of these PBMs and all of these insurances should have to follow that. And some of the requirements that they're asking are, in my opinion, just astronomically insane. They are not only asking that you have to have an in-person doctor. So all of these platforms and all of these people who've been seeing virtual doctors, even myself through Weight Watchers Clinic, if my PBM makes this change as well, I will no longer be able to accept a prescription from Weight Watchers Clinic. I can only accept a prescription and go through my in-person doctor locally. Now for me, I have that already in place, but for a lot of people, they're not going to have that in place. A lot of people who work and have small children don't have the luxury of being able to just take off and go to a doctor whenever the doctor has time ready for them. They need a virtual appointment with a doctor who is knowledgeable about the drugs. You also think about all the people who don't really have a large supply of doctors right around where they live that are very knowledgeable in these type of drugs and willing to work with patients on prescribing them. So those people also need to be able to see someone virtually as well. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with the PBMs now requiring that you have to see an in-person doctor, because that's a lot of hassle on the patient and the consumer to have to figure out time and place and effort to get there. And yes, I understand that people who really want the drug are going to make the time and effort to get there, but they shouldn't have to. I mean, we have virtual that you can speak to a doctor. Now, I will say, I do think that it should be a virtual appointment where you're physically speaking to a doctor and it is a full intake appointment and not necessarily like, hey, I just log on a platform and say I want this. Because I think that that's what they're trying to eliminate, is the people who really shouldn't be on the drugs, who are obtaining the drugs because there's no real check that they are who they say they are, and there's no check behind their medical record, and there's no check behind, you know, is this someone that really needs these drugs? And on some of the things I'll go over in the news, there is an argument by some of the celebrities who have a history of eating disorders that this could be very dangerous for people who do have eating disorders that it's so easily obtainable to them. And I do see that point, but I also feel like requiring the in-person doctor and the in-person doctor visits and documentation notes. A lot of doctors are just going to say, I'm not going to fool with this because I really just don't want to have to provide all the documentation back to insurance companies all the time. And I want to show you guys some more of these. I'm going to put it up bigger so that you guys can see. So we're talking about Saxenda, Wegovy, and Zepbound specifically on this version that came out from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. These are something that I saw posted on a forum. This was a doctor's office that said, hey, just so that you guys know, we're already starting to receive letters like this from the PBMs in regards to our patients and different requirements now for us to be able to get their medicine for them. So on August 1st, they're going to require a prior authorization of all drugs. The current ones will end at midnight, and a new prior authorization request is required. There's also new criteria for the members from August 1st through December 31st of the end of 2024, which is this year. They will require a new prescription to align with the new PA criteria, and the original prescriber has to establish a relationship with the member or hasn't seen the member in person. For members with a plan renewal date other than January 1st, the new prior authorization will end prior to the new renewal date. When I first read that, I thought, okay, that sounds a little weird. You know, what are they saying that the prescription has to align with the new PA or criteria if the original prescriber didn't have the established relationship with the member? Like, why would the original prescriber not have an established relationship with a member? What are they getting at there? So it continues on to say that on January 1st, coverage for GLP-1 weight loss drugs for fully insured large group commercial members will end. Like, straight up end. Like, hey, starting in August, we're going to require you to get a new PA for the remainder of this year. But guess what? Even if we approve it based on our new criteria, come January, you have no coverage anymore. What? Not only that, if you continue reading this, they're basically setting their members up for failure come August 1st. It's like, hey, August 1st, you're not going to have coverage anymore because changes to their prior authorization criteria. Read this part very carefully. They must be 18 years or older and have a body mass index of 35 or higher. So it's no longer 30, which is the FDA's recommendation for this drug. It is now 35 for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan because that's just what they decided. Yay. They also go further to say it must be prescribed by a healthcare provider who has an established relationship with the member and has seen the member in person. So they're taking away the virtual aspect in the virtual prescription. The prescriber must document the member's current baseline weight within 30 days. The prescriber must document the member's active participation in a lifestyle modification program, such as working with a coach, tracking food and exercise for a minimum duration of 6 months. So if you've not already been working with a trainer, logging your food, a nutritionist, a weight loss specialist, whatever it happens to be, for 6 months prior to August 1st that you have full documentation of, that you can take to an in-person prescriber and say, hey, here's my 6 months of me working with my trainer. Here's 6 months worth of me logging my food as well. Please submit all of this documentation with my new PA so that I don't have a break in my coverage and I don't have a break in my medicine. A lot of people are not going to have that. And if people are just now being made aware of this right now, they're also not going to be able to obtain that. And so that's why I want to make sure that you guys are kind of aware that these are some new requirements that are coming out, because if you have a Peloton membership, if you've been logging your food in MyFitnessPal, if you have a Weight Watchers, just a normal Weight Watchers membership, or you've been working with Weight Watchers Clinic, or you've been working with a trainer, or you've been going to the gym, or you have your steps that you're tracking, my suggestion to all of you is to figure out a way for you to easily pull 6 months worth of that data or documentation and just go ahead and have it ready. Because if your insurance makes changes like this, or if you're with Blue Cross Blue Shield with another state and then this comes out for your state, then you already have it and you're already ready to go. And you're like, I already knew this was coming. I'm one step ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give this to my provider. I'm going to go ahead and do these things. However, if they also come forth and say you as well have to be 35 BMI or over, and you have currently lost weight and are under 35 BMI, you're not going to get coverage because a new PA has to go in and you're underneath it again. And so I really don't like this. I don't like this because I feel like PBMs and insurance companies, they make more money off of people who have medical conditions. And there's a lot of medical conditions related and associated with obesity. And if everyone starts losing weight, and like a lot of the articles that are in the news this week about people on RA medicines are coming off their RA medicines because the Glp-1s and Tirzepatide are lowering inflammation overall in the entire body. I sent this one to my rheumatologist and said, hey, you might want to look at this, because here's the study that was also published that now they're doing clinical trials on humans, because it lowered inflammation across the entire body. It's helping kidneys, it's helping liver, it's helping the brain, it's helping the heart. There's even a petition, I believe, by Novo Nordisk to the FDA to place that their drug that they have a study on, a 4-year study on, is also good for cardiovascular health. Okay? It's being studied for Parkinson's disease. It's being studied for Alzheimer's. If people start taking this blockbuster drug from whoever they're taking it from, a GLP-1 in general, there's retatrutide that is coming out in 2025 that I personally cannot wait to review the final clinical study notes on, because it is a Tirzepatide, a muscle loss prevention medicine, and an osteoarthritis medicine, a 3-for-1, and it is a pill. I cannot wait for that to come out. However, if all of the PBMs are going to keep putting all these stringent regulations on everything, if I lose below 35 BMI, okay, great, but I'm still on my Cosentyx medicine for my rheumatoid arthritis that I have, my rheumatological disorders, my autoimmune disorders, that when I take those injections, I just gain the weight right back. So is my life going to then just be a yo-yo of 35 BMI back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and constantly having to ask a doctor once I get over 35 BMI again to resubmit my 6-month worth of documents of me trying to lose weight and me still on my Cosentyx injections for me to be able to attain a medicine that can help my health. I feel like these requirements are basically going to do what everyone here is thinking right now. I want you guys to put down in the comments right now, before I say the next thing, what you guys are thinking. Like, okay, what do I do? What's everybody else going to do? Put down in the comment right now what you think that is, because I know what everybody's going to do. Everyone's going to switch over to compounds. They're going to try to find compounds because PBMs and insurance companies are not able to regulate compounds. The FDA does not regulate compounds. However, we're going to jump over into End in the News now. Last week, I told you all to watch this video. I still strongly believe you should watch this video. After you watch this video, I want you guys to come back here and comment down below what your largest takeaway was from watching that and what your thoughts are, because I would love to know. I loved how they called things cowboys, that all the compounders out there are just cowboys, like basically saying it's the Wild West. Everybody's out there just doing this. I also like how they called everything dodgy. I think that I might adapt that, since I got in trouble for using other words before. I'm just going to start saying dodgy. It's very dodgy. Love it. I also think Australia, after this investigation, gets it. I think that their regulatory body that is like the FDA in the USA, which is their therapeutic grade agency, I think it's called the TGA, they got it after all this came out on what is basically like our, Dateline, that we watch. There was an investigative reporter who went through and found different people, and random people in homes, by the way, making these compounds and sending them all over the world, and then also having those compounds tested and how it all went. Therefore, Australia, come on October 1st of 2024, is banning all compounded GLP-1 drugs in all of Australia. They cannot come in. They cannot be made in Australia. They're done. The only thing that can come into Australia are manufactured approved items. Now, this is kind of where I think this will eventually go for Australia. It might also go this way in the United States as well. It really just depends on what legislative body decides that they want to jump in, like Bernie Sanders, and jump all over the FDA and jump all over the FDAC that's protecting all of this being done, and jump all over manufacturers and say, okay, here's what you're doing, or guess what? We're going to start making generics of your drug, the end. Also, basically just ripping the legs right out from underneath these PBMs and insurance companies and saying enough is enough. I feel like he's currently calling in the head of Novo Nordisk in September, who is voluntarily coming in to explain the pricing in the US versus other countries. And I feel like Novo Nordisk CEO is going to come in and say to him, hey, you're going after the wrong people. You need to go talk to your PBMs, your insurance companies. They are the ones making the money. They are the ones dictating everything. They are even going against your own FDA requirements for these drugs to try to make it even harder for the American people to obtain them, while also making them pay more. They're the ones who are prioritizing the people who are paying full price out of their own pocket for these medicines, instead of people who can use a coupon and get it covered. You need to shift and pivot where you're looking, and if they're the ones paying for your legislative campaigns, and that's why you're not looking that way, then there is a big, big problem. I would love to know how many different heads of insurance are helping pay for different political campaigns. I think this is a very big problem. So this video, I think, is very important to watch, because I know that the UK is also headed the same way as what Australia is doing, because I watched the Piers Morgan whole panel that was on YouTube. And this is also another one that I think everyone should watch. It gives a couple of different viewpoints, which I can appreciate everyone's viewpoint, unless you're a doctor from Fox News that says all he prescribes to people is to go exercise more. No, you should have your medical license removed. That just extremely irritated me, and a lot of people are getting kind of fed up with that response in general. I know that there is also a person on the panel who, she is a reality star, but she has RA. She has rheumatoid arthritis. She had to come off of her medicine while she was pregnant, having her son, and then she had to go through multiple rounds of steroids after she had her son, trying to get back able to move and not have pain in all her joints, and basically to live a normal life. And during that process, she gained almost as much weight on her tiny, small frame that she does have as when she was pregnant. And so she did have a doctor who prescribed her what I believe is a compounded GLP-1, because she did state that it was compounded and mixed with an L-carnitine, and that she was only on it for 3 months and then started weaning herself off of it because she had lost the weight that she needed to lose. However, she also understands that it might be something that she has to rotate back on and off of and on and off of. And her opinion of this is really like, hey, she compared it to Botox. When Botox came out, that's not how Botox was intended to be used, and everyone was wanting to ban Botox and say Botox needed to just go away. And then in reality now, you can go on any street corner in any med spa, in any medical office, and get Botox. And it's not taboo anymore. Everyone, kind of does it. I've never had Botox. Hopefully I don't need to. I'm sure I need to, but I don't. But I also know plenty of people that do, and I don't really think anything of them doing it because it's so mainstream now. And she did say that she feels like GLP-1s are basically just going to be mainstream now, even the compounded versions. And there's a lot of arguing back and forth between, of course, people who come from an eating disorder background, doctors who believe in you just exercise more, and then doctors who believe in like fasting, ketogenic, healthy foods, which I also believe in. Obviously, KetosisMom. Even though I'm on these drugs, I still eat whole, nutrient-dense foods. That's what I'm used to doing. That's what I want to do. I don't want to go and eat, something with a label and something from fast food. Like, I want a corn on the cob. Like, my husband is about to strangle me because I want shrimp and corn on the cob constantly, and hummus. I love hummus. So I get his viewpoint. There's also someone who wrote a book called The Magic Pill who has been on this, who says like, yeah, there's like these 12 big considerations that people need to weigh and say, hey, are these 12 things that can affect me by taking this drug that are not small things? Like the first 4 or 5 are rather large things, like the pancreatitis or the gallbladder disease or the thyroid disorders that you can have, or cancers that you can get from that. Does that outweigh the fact that I've been overweight my entire life and I have all this other list of medical conditions and heart attacks in my family that can happen to me if I keep this weight on me? And it's a very individualized approach for everyone. And I've said that from the very beginning. Everyone's going to respond to this medicine differently. Everyone responds to everything differently. And for people like the doctor who says, I just prescribe exercise for 7 days a week, you're acting as though every single person's body is going to respond the exact same way, when every single person's body is going to react completely differently. Even identical twins. There have been studies on identical twins. I'll put it up here. You can watch it over on Netflix. There's been studies on identical twins that their bodies are not responding the same way. Their bodies don't have the same thing going on. They even specifically put these twins on separate type of lifestyles to see, okay, if you're eating vegan versus you're eating carnivore, what happens to this microbiome within your digestive system? So I feel like we have some very outdated doctors that need to kind of pump up with the program. And I'll be honest, even my own rheumatologist, he has no idea anything about GLP-1s, anything about tirzepatides, says that he's very hands-off with that because that's not his area. And I continue to send him links, and I know I get on his nerves, and I do not care. I continue to send him links about, hey, no, like these are being studied for inflammation across the entire body. These are helping with heart health. You're talking about giving medications like a JAK2 inhibitor, a JAK inhibitor to patients that have unexplained cardiovascular events associated with them, but you don't want to couple that with something that can provide heart health and protective heart barrier for them. Why? We're talking about something in 2025 that has both a muscle loss preventative with it, a weight preventative or weight loss with it, as well as osteoarthritis medicine. Why would that not be a rheumatology doctor's realm? Okay. I think that the continuing education of doctors is extremely important, especially if all of these PBMs and insurance companies are now going to require patients to see an in-person doctor. I think that they're, okay, fine. The FDA needs to push out and say, hey, every time we approve a new drug, it is now your requirement to learn about that drug yourself and stop waiting for some rep from a manufacturing company to come and try to sell you on it and provide you a free lunch and a free vacation. I will also say that I do know and I do sympathize with people who do and have a history of eating disorders. I know people myself who have had eating disorders, as far as anorexia, bulimia, things like that. And I do know that there's a lot of social media out there right now focusing on people who should not be on these drugs. And, they're trying to get from a size 4 to a size 0, or they're continuing to lose weight, and they are in mainstream media and they are out there for role models to children, and it's not really ideal. And I do think that there needs to be something to be done to say, okay, like there are certain people who for sure need to be on this medicine, and there's for sure people who should not be on this medicine. I just personally don't really know where that line in the sand needs to be, but I do know that I'm not in agreement with insurance companies and PBMs making new requirements on their own, such as having to join, like with Express Scripts, having to join a separate app and log in and take so many classes and talk to a coach and weigh in with a scale that they send you, and that your doctor has to send all this additional documentation. And I feel like the thought process behind whatever boardroom table that was, hey, let's just make there be so many hoops that people have to jump through that they just give up and say, forget it. And then they just stay overweight and stay with their overweight conditions. I also think that this is probably a lot coming from employers who are having to cover the cost of a lot of this as well. So when you really kind of narrow this down, you've got your company that you work for that's having to pay your insurance company, right? That process, PBMs are making bank. They're making a ton of money off of corporate entities just right there. Then PBMs are also taking what I call kickbacks. They're taking money from the manufacturers in order to offer those drugs to that company's patients as a preferred or a tiered drug on their plan. Then they're also going and creating their own pharmacies where they're not having to pay an outward pharmacy anymore. I mean, it's just, we are the only country in the world that has this type of system, and therefore that's why our drug prices are just astronomical, and it is so hard for us to obtain drugs that are needed. You may recall the last time I was talking about Bernie Sanders, he was asking the head CEO of Merck, was he aware of how many patients had GoFundMe accounts in order just to try to obtain the Keytruda cancer drug. Of course, the CEO stated he did not. Bernie Sanders proceeded to tell him, you know, hey, there's over this many that my team have found. And oh, by the way, a lot of those people already died. I'm not saying that if people can't obtain this GLP-1 drug that they're going to die, but there's also a lot of weight-related conditions that can eventually lead that way. And so I feel like China, I will tell you all, I'm going to give you another in the news. China has about like 10 or 11 different generic drugs that are about to be manufactured for Ozempic and Wegovy. They are not renewing Novo Nordisk's patent on the semaglutide, and they are reviewing all of these new generics that are going to be able to come out that are going to be a lower price point for their people. That is why I think eventually, if this whole PBM insurance and manufacturer thing cannot get straightened out, I think the US needs to also have FDA approved manufacturers that are also FDA regulated. They also have to do everything CGMP, like the Eli Lilly brand name drugs or Novo Nordisk brand name drugs have to go through at a lesser price that is either funded by the government or set up by a separate entity that is then government approved to be the generic versions. Eli Lilly stock continues to rise. It is up over 400% right now. I'm glad that I bought it when I did. There are a lot of new drugs that are going to be coming out just in the next year. This is going to be a very long process of, hey, okay, now we've got this new drug out. I will just tell everyone, make sure that you've got your P's and Q's in order as far as making sure that you do have your documentation of where you have attempted to try your weight loss outside of a medication. Establish a relationship with an in-person doctor. Even if you're not on the medications now, you could just establish something with them and say, hey, I want you to start tracking my weight for me. Here's the things that I'm doing. I want all of this in my annual exam with you, that I am attempting to do these things before I ask you for a prescription. I'm going to study all the different options out there that there are for me to take. I will also tell you all that my endocrinologist also suggested that I obtain a new internal medicine doctor because I told her they continue to tell me I should just have gastric bypass surgery. A lot of people that I know who have had gastric bypass surgery are now on these medications anyway. I personally hate surgery. I'm very curious to know in the comments down below if you have had any type of surgery and you're willing to share what your results were or what your experience was like. If you have any other type of, like autoimmune disease or anything like that when you had it. And then if you are on these medications now, or you're planning or looking to get on them after your gastric bypass surgery, I would love to know from you guys down below kind of your process. As always, I am here to just kind of say, hey, here's what's going on with me. Here's what I took. So I am going to show you guys my last 2 weeks. I'll fast forward so you don't have to sit the whole time through it all, of my Zepbound. Both weeks while I was on vacation was the 2.5, and then this week was also the 2.5 as well. I also am going to tell you all, traveling through TSA. I know you guys wanted me to do this one because it had the temperature device on the top. I'm going to show you guys a bigger video while I talk through this. I had this out. I was ready to go. I looked at the time. It was like 12:30 something. By the time it was just after 1, this had already gone up so many degrees that I knew there was absolutely no possible way that it was going to last the 14 hours that I was going to be traveling through airports, having to open it, you know, multiple planes, by the way. I had it was delayed multiple times. I had a 6-hour layover over in Denver. And then I finally got there and then had a 2-hour drive to get in. And because we landed at like 3 a.m., we ended up having to get a hotel room and just drive in the next morning. And there was no refrigerator in the room that I was in. So there's absolutely no way that this would have made it. So I swapped over to the smaller one. I will tell you all that the TSA process was super easy. I handed them my case and said, hey, I don't want this going through the x-ray machine. My prescription is in there. This is an injectable I have to take weekly. They handed it around to the lady on the other end. She opened it, looked at it, saw what it was, closed it right back up. And when I got through on security, she just said, ma'am, is this yours? And I told her yes. I zipped it back up and put it back down in my pouch. I left it at room temperature for the week before I took it. And that was it. It was super easy to travel with. I am going to show you guys some of my videos and also my photos from my trip in Yellowstone because I know that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing those. It was truly, truly beautiful. So I hope you guys enjoy these. Oh, but it's starting to steam again.
It's been steaming.
No, it stopped for a while. Say, hey, Jeej. Jeej. Hi.
It's still here. Come on. Come on, girl. Come here. Over here. Come over here.
It's erupting again.
Allie, you're missing it.
It's erupting.
That's so cool.
Come on here. You think?
You think?
Yeah. It's cold water from all the way in the back because it's not coming down. And
Before we even got here.
is it hot in there?
Hiking.
That up there is a good way to get.
Look, this is beautiful than that.
No. Is that it?
It looks like a rainbow. Come through here. It looks like a rainbow. Savannah, come look.
We wasn't a minute ago.
Here. Are they here? Cousin.
Bobby, they're not here. All right, let's go, girls.
It looks dirty. Like it.
Mm-hmm.
in my mouth.
No. No.
I can't.
No.
It's right in my mouth.
It would be red. That's in front of us will probably hop out of his car and run in there.
Yours right next to this.
Yeah.
Right there. That's an entire field of them.
But they're all living in the holes right there.
I know.
It's a snake.
So many birds.
I
You found another animal.
Add to your list.
Look at you go.
I saw a snake in my book.
Don't like them. Don't like it. Better start looking up in the trees too.
Its head is
Yeah.
not also diamond. Look, Poppy, look.
I'm gonna get lost.
We're not walking out all the way.
Yeah, you go climb that mountain and I'll meet you at the... Your belt
Here,
is
look at that
tight.
little guy. There are people fishing right here. Come on, they won't get in your face though. That's cool, because when I took the picture, it's right there. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So that is steam that's causing the
So this is a kind of, it's like those other mud.
so there's also gas.
There's gas and there's mud, but this one has a lot more water. So instead of being
Let me know if there's new topics that you guys want covered. Bye, y'all.